Do you do the before lecture chant? Can you hear me? Let's make sure you can hear me. Yeah? Are we okay?
Yes, I will hit the clacker and we'll begin with the before lecture chant.
I couldn't hear that. Can you hear me? Yeah, you're okay. Okay, well, I that was a great before lecture chant. Thank you for doing it. Okay. Well, and thank you. Let me double check because it's a little, you can hear me, right? Thumbs up in the room. Okay, good. Um, Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to get to work with Doralee, the Racial and Social Justice's Dharma practice group. Uh, Jim is an old friend. It's sweet to be here with you on this Monday evening. So I asked Doralee anything that you'd been focusing on or something that might be helpful to bring forward. And she told me that the women had recently done a women's retreat and focused on the hidden lamp. Hidden Lamp is edited by Dharma Sisters of Mind, Florence Kaplow and Sue Moon, and it's a wonderful resource and book. And before I forget, I also want to tell you that you probably know, but the SZBA, the Soto Zen Buddhist Association, is this year doing a series once a month of celebrating the voices of women teachers, and it's I think a pretty wonderful lineup of women both in our lineage and in other lineages bringing forward. We had one on the body. We had one on relationships within the Sangha. Linda Ruth Cutts is going to, I think, this coming weekend, maybe, talk about Dogen's fascicle on women. So uh, I'm sure you could Google it and find it. So I wanted to bring forward, uh, koans become like old friends. Some of them you read them and they just sort of bounce off of you, and maybe they come back to you when you aren't looking, like 5 years or 10 years later, suddenly a phrase will appear or an image or uh, but I have I have two interrelated koans from the Hidden Lamp that have stayed with me for a very long time, and I wanted to bring them forward once again. I never tire of them. I was reading them again today and feeling like I could stay with these. I will stay with these for the rest of my life. And I hope I have time because I have a third story too, which is really what koans are. They're family stories that is more present day, so that we don't think this all just happened back then, whenever we think that was. The first story is Chiono's No Water, No Moon from Japan, 13th century. The beautiful thing for me is that it also then has Nyozo's Pale Moon of Dawn, which 100 years later she was practicing with Chiono's koan, and she awoke as Chiono awoke. So there's this feeling of relationship and lineage that we pass along to each other, heart to heart, body to body. I hope some of that will happen this evening. And then I'm hoping I can tuck in something about Trudy Dixon, which is a name that you probably all know. She edited Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. But as often happens, we all know Suzuki Roshi as well. We should. Suzuki Roshi is our deep lineage holder teacher. And Trudy Dixon was also an amazing practitioner. So I want to tell you a little bit about her story, but we'll see what happens. I wanted to start. I'm going to just jump right into the koan. Jiono's no water, no moon. Jiono was thought to be Mugai Noidai, the first Japanese woman to receive Dharma transmission and founder of the first Zenist, the first Zen Buddhist convent in Japan. So she went on to become, we might say, somebody. And her roots are very, very humble. And I trust that she stayed with these humble roots. Here's the story. Shiono was a servant in a Zen convent. One of the nuns in a convent was an elderly woman who had come to rest in her deeply compassionate nature. I think that's a very beautiful way to start. Chiono was humble. She was a person of no rank. And she looked around the monastery to see not who was necessarily the smartest or the one of the highest rank, but there was something about this person that deeply moved her. She had come to rest in her deeply compassionate nature. And one day, Chiono approached her and said, I'm of humble birth. I can't read or write, and I must work all the time. If I set an intention, is it possible that I too might attain the way of the Buddha, even though I have no skills? We could maybe imagine looking around the Sangha and someone who looked kind and at rest, compassionate, and approaching them and saying, I don't understand this, but there's something here that makes my heart sing, that I feel in alignment with. And if I set a deep intention to follow this path that I know that you have been following, is it possible that I too may find some place to rest? Now, we could imagine there could be lots of responses from a senior person, but this woman that she has turned to, this senior compassionate person, stayed with her own deep heart and in relationship said, this is wonderful, my dear. What a beautiful thing to say to a younger person who comes towards us and says, what is this Dharma and what's it all about? And what are you doing? And can you help me follow the way? And then the elderly nun says, in fact, what is there to attain? Listen carefully. The teachers of the past have said that people are complete as they are. Each one is perfected. Not even the width of one eyebrow hair separates them from this perfection. She gives her really good advice. She says, listen deeply. You're with your whole body and your whole heart. And reassures her that each person is perfect, whole, and complete. Each one of us. What a kind and compassionate thing to say. And then she goes on. In Buddhism, there is no distinction between a man and a woman, between a layperson and a renunciate. There is also no separation between noble and humble, between young and old. Don't get all caught up in your head about all of this and that, and who has it and who doesn't, and whether you can do it and whether you can't do it. And then she says, there is only this. Listen carefully. Each person must hold fast to his or her aspiration and proceed along the way of the Bodhisattva. There is no higher way than this. If you know your own mind, your own heart mind, what teachings about the scripture do you need? The teachings of the sutras are like a finger pointing at the moon. Know your own heart's aspiration and hold fast to it. The arising of the aspiration to follow the way, bodhicitta, and the path of the bodhisattva is right here. You are already perfect, whole, and complete. Just keep listening, following the path. It's not what you think. She continues. If one looks directly at the moon, there is no need for a finger. In entering the way, we rely on our bodies. Our bodies. This is a body practice. That was how Chiono found and entrusted herself to this older, elderly, wise, compassionate practitioner. She could feel it, sense it in her body. There was something here. And then the elderly, wise nun explained the way of Zazen. Just this, just Zazen, just sitting down, grounding on the earth, breathing in and out, being breathed in and out. Just this, just enacting exactly being Buddha, as you all and we all did together not so many moments ago. Chiono received these teachings with faith and happiness. She had a sense of a direct transmission, that something had been said to her that felt true, that she could follow all the way through. And she said, with this practice as my companion, I have only to go about my daily life, practicing wholeheartedly day and night. So not just Zazen on the cushion, lived Zazen, alive, awake, breathing, being breathed with and for all beings, resting the path of our own true nature and heart, our deepest aspiration. And in the 8th lunar month of the following year, the moon was shining full. Giona went to draw some water from the well. And the bottom of her old bucket, held together by bamboo strips, suddenly gave way, and the bottom fell out of the pail. I love that image and the felt sense of it. And at that moment, she was set free. We all work so hard to keep it all together. We keep repairing all the old bamboo strips. We work so hard, doing this, doing that, trying, failing. And suddenly, in a moment, it opened. And she experienced a moment of freedom. Free, free, free at last, resting in her own true nature, resting in all things. And in commemoration, she wrote a poem. In this way and that, I tried to save the old pail. Since the bamboo strip was weakening and about to break, until at last the bottom fell out. No more water in the pail, no more moon in the water. No more this or that, no more striving or high or low or getting it right or not getting it right. Just continuous practice and deep faith. The bottom of the bucket fell out. A life of faith and devotion, continuous practice. And then 100 years later, Nyozen's Pale Moon of Dawn, again Japanese, Japan, 13th century. The nun Nyozen of Tokuji used to meditate on the Enlightenment poem of Chiono as her theme for realization. Now, this in itself, I think, is really beautiful, of how much we inspire each other, how much one person's deep aspiration, deep life of faith inspires another across time and space. We inspire each other in Sangha. That's the beauty of Sangha. You come to Zazen on a Monday evening, and because you're there, other people come, and other people are there, and so you come. But we're also sitting in a room full of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas across time and space. We just bow to them on the altar and think that they're out there, but they're actually all right here sitting with us, and we're sitting with them. The echo of this deep faith embodied continuous practice is right here if we listen deeply. Nyozen, following the way of Chiono, following the way of deepest heart, faith, aspiration. Later, her own heart mind opened and she wrote, "The bottom fell out of the bucket of that woman of humble birth. The pale moon of dawn is caught in the rain puddles." It's everywhere. Rain puddles. Dew on a blade of grass. Dogen says the moon is reflected even in a puddle an inch wide. The whole moon and the entire sky are reflected on one dewdrop of grass. It's everywhere. Go out and listen when you leave tonight to the sounds of the spring evening. In the morning, hear the call of the birds waking up. Let your eyes rest in your eye sockets, your heart rest beating softly, your ears soft and open. Listen and keep aligning yourself, coming home to your own deepest intention. So now I want to bring this story forward. It's so easy to think, oh, somebody over there did it. They had special qualities. Trudy Dixon. United States of America, 20th century. Had been doing graduate studies in philosophy at UC Berkeley, specializing in Heidegger and Wittgenstein when her husband Mike first took her to Sokuji in 1962 to hear a Suzuki Roshi lecture. They arrived late and stood in the back of the Zendo. Suzuki embarked on an unusual line of thought that evening. He compared the practice of Zen with the study of philosophy, expressing one's truth with one's whole body and mind instead of thinking and trying to figure out the meaning of life. He looked intently at Trudy during that lecture. and it penetrated Trudy's heart. Somehow she was ripe and ready, just like Chiono, and she heard and listened to Suzuki Roshi. And she couldn't get the experience of being with him and in the Zendo, and of the embodied experience that was transmitted to her in a very, very ordinary moment. Maybe it was just the way he rested in his own true nature. So she and Mike continued coming to lectures and soon decided to start practicing with Suzuki, and they became close disciples. And then over time, most of you probably know the story, they started transcribing the talks, and then uh, 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 Trudy Dixon began, they began recording the talks, and Trudy Dixon began transcribing them. And in the spring of 1968, the manuscript to Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Suzuki Roshi's talks were given to Trudy Dixon. Trudy took on the task wholeheartedly, even though she had two small children and had undergone surgery for breast cancer and was in poor health. She followed her own heart. She threw herself completely into it, listening to the original tapes, painstakingly working on the material word by word, thought by thought, organizing it, and conferring often with Richard Baker and with Suzuki Roshi. In Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Trudy put her whole being into expressing the essence of Suzuki Roshi's teachings. And after she had completed her work on the manuscript, she concentrated on taking care of her home and dealing with her approaching death. She remained cheerful on the outside, but her mind was possessed by fear. And after an operation, her lungs filled with liquid and she couldn't breathe. She struggled for breath with all the energy she could find until she went beyond thoughts, words, and fear into what she called breath struggle samadhi. This is embodied practice. This isn't something pristine and shiny. This is real on the ground, humble, being in the body practice. And with this experience of breath struggle samadhi, she gradually became well enough and she went to Tassajara, which I think is amazing that she entrusted herself to go down that long, winding road and to be in practice period there. And when she was there, she had a powerful, joyful experience that included life and death, health and illness, fear and courage. And she said she finally stopped fighting and came to understand, as she called it, accommodating the enemy. Actually, that's what Suzuki Roshi's words were, and she agreed that that's what was happening. And those around her described her as being like a new person, a fearless and radiant woman. I'd say the bottom of the bucket. The pail dropped out. To her husband, caretakers, and friends, she became an inspiration. Here we are, just simple, just the person next to you, working with whatever the circumstances of their life is. She wrote, "Myself, my body, is dissolved in phenomena like a sky's rainbow caught in a child's soap bubble. Myself, my body, is dissolved in phenomena like a sky's rainbow caught in a child's soap bubble." And she began to refer to her illness as this blessed cancer. Suzuki Roshi went and visited Trudy in her home. And one day after such a visit, he returned to his car and his eyes were wet, and he said, "Now there's a real Zen master." heart to heart, warm hand, warm heart. That's the beauty of this tradition. It's not intellectual or distant, very deeply intimate and relational. And on July 9th, 1969, Mike called Suzuki at Sokochi and told him that Trudy had just died in the hospital, too quickly for Suzuki to have gotten there. And Suzuki Roshi fell apart crying on the phone. At Trudy's funeral 2 days later, Suzuki Roshi was uncharacteristically emotional. He cried and said, "I never thought I'd have a disciple this great. Maybe I never will again." As is customary, the funeral included an ordination in which Suzuki Roshi gave his deceased student the precepts, and then he delivered a eulogy. This is what he said. "Go, my disciple. You have completed your practice for this life and acquired a genuine warm heart. You have completed your practice for this life and have acquired a genuine warm heart, a pure and undefiled Buddha mind, and joined our Sangha." I would imagine he means the Sangha of all beings, Sangha beyond Sangha, of Buddhas and practitioners, Chiono, Nyozen, and on and on. All that you have done in this life and in your past lives became meaningful in the light of the Buddha mind, which was found so clearly within yourself as your own. Because of your complete practice, your mind has transcended far beyond your physical sickness, and it has taken full care of your sickness like a nurse. A person of joyful mind is contented with their lot. Even in adversity, they will see bright light. They find the Buddha's place in different circumstances, easy and difficult. They feel pleasure even in painful conditions and rejoice. For us, for all who have this joy of Buddha mind, the world of birth and death is the world of nirvana. Right here, just this. Deep faith practice. The compassionate mind is the affectionate mind of parents. Parents always think of the growth and welfare of their children to the neglect of their own circumstances. Our scriptures say Buddha mind is the mind of great compassion. Buddha mind is the mind of great compassion. The magnanimous mind is as big as a mountain and as wide as an ocean. A person of magnanimous mind is impartial. They walk the middle way and are never attached to any side of the extreme aspect of things. Magnanimous mind works justly and impartially. Now you have acquired the Buddha mind and become a real disciple of the Buddha. And then Suzuki Roshi said, "And now I express my true power." And he let out a long, mighty roar of grief that echoed through the cavernous auditorium. We affect each other. We wake each other up. Sometimes difficult, sometimes pleasant. Sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't. Shiono continued day and night this deep practice, in faith that she was Buddha, in faith that someone else, she saw the Buddha-ness in someone else's heart and mind and had faith that it too was her, is her true nature. So this is our koan. In all times, and maybe especially in these times, are difficult in our country and in the world. What's a bodhisattva to do? What is this Buddha that we all are and are waking up to? The Chiono, Nyozen, and Trudy Dixon are shining mirrors. Maybe one last story. I would imagine your Sangha celebrates Buddha's birthday. We just celebrated it in Dharma Heart Zen, which is actually the name of the Sangha in Sonoma County that I lead and guide. I found this really beautiful commentary. Another shining moon, a finger pointing to the moon by Bhikkhu Nanamoli. This day, any day, is really important right now to think about what a Buddha is. What is it that we're doing here? Because it's not limited to just one person. What Buddha really is a moment whenever great wisdom and compassion come together in this world, in a thought or action, in kind word, a moment of selfless generosity, and helps to free up this world. That's what Buddha is. What Buddha showing up in this world really is when any one of us or anyone else in this world suddenly remembers how precious we are. Stop trying to keep it all together, to be somebody. Just remember how precious we are and how precious all beings and all things are. Moments. The bottom of the bucket of self drops out, and we realize we are so closely connected. When the idea we usually carry around of ourselves as me over here and the rest of the world over there dissolves even for a second, even for a second, even for a second, a moment. And somebody, sometimes even ourselves, acts with tremendous kindness and a deep, deep knowing of what is good and right to do in that moment. That's a Buddha being born. Whenever great wisdom and compassion come together in this world, even for a second, it's amazing. Sometimes you must be amazed. I'm amazed. The clarity, it just all falls away, and it's so clear. Just kindness and openness and the clarity of a path, and just this foot and this foot, just this breath, just this body, just zazen, breathing in and breathing out. And then the next moment, completely diluted self-centered thought. And that's it too. It's continuous practice. It's very humble. Whenever great wisdom or compassion come together in this world in a thought or action or kind word, in a moment of selfless generosity, it helps to free up this world. And in that moment, everyone and everything is free. So that's why I love these stories. It's so easy to get discouraged. It's so easy to set ourselves up against somebody or something else. But there's something in the heart of all of these stories that I can feel resonating in my own heart, my own vow, my own aspiration and intention. That I can feel when all of you are sitting 16-foot tall Buddhas in the meditation hall on a Monday evening, just breathing in and out this really simple practice. Maybe you have some idea of what you're doing and where you're going, and that this is all part of getting there. And what's amazing is it's already here. And all we're doing is reminding each other the truth of this practice in our own hearts and of Buddha's hearts, and that we were never, ever, and couldn't be separate. So I thank you for letting me be here to remind myself, to remind you in this crazy, wonderful world that it's not what we think it is. Uh, just keep showing up. As Mel Weissman said, saying one thing all the way through to the end. It's already here. You already got it. Just keep practicing. Thank you for sharing your hearts with me and with each other.
We
I
can
don't
have,
know. Yeah, go ahead, Doralee.
oh, just inviting anyone who might want to respond or ask a question or connect with Chris and the rest of us.
Hi, I'm Scott. I just want to thank you very deeply for your wonderful.
Hold on a second. Can you turn the volume of the mic up by any chance? Is it still green?
Hello.
Talk
How's
loudly.
that? How's that? Ooh,
Oh, good.
that works. Um, I just want to very simply just say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm sure everybody here for your deeply heart-rending talk. I'm very deeply touched by it and inspired by it, and I just want to thank you for your kindness and wisdom and insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
See, I can't see the people on Zoom to know if there's a hand raised or not. Oh, Dave?
I just wanted to say thank you. It was beautiful and inspiring, and thank you.
Thank you. I think a lot these days about taking refuge in Sangha. It's so easy to be discouraged or overwhelmed or what are we going to do? Is just be good mirrors for each other. Just practicing small moments of kindness. I think we often think we fall prey to thinking we're doing something special or we should be doing something special, all these forms and Zen and it's all beautiful. I mean, I love it. But it's really, really important to pay attention to your heart and the person next to you and across from you and to know that whole world is right here with us, and how we live and breathe, how we take care of ourselves and each other really profoundly matters in this world. And then if you want to go do some special action, like please go do that, but do it with the same deep intention. Otherwise, we're just creating the same old craziness. I mean, which we can do too, and that's how we wake up. But help each other. Keep remembering our bodhisattva hearts.
Hello, Chris. This is Sarah O'Gara. It's nice to see you. I love that image. I have read that koan before, Chirono, but something when you were reading again just hit me with the bottom of the bucket falling out, and instead of one moon, there were 1,100,000 moons. And I was just thinking about how often you struggle. You're trying to hold things together. I really want to make this work and all this effort. But when the bucket falls out, it's not a tragedy. In fact, the problem is now, or the wealth or the love or is beyond recognition in terms of its bountifulness. And that's an image I think I need to remember. Thank you for highlighting that in this story, because that had not hit me before in reading it. And it sort of shows about sitting with it over and over again. There's always something new.
And I'll confess that I just had an insight that I never had before, which is why we keep coming back to these things. As I thought, oh, the bottom of the bucket falls out is exactly, I mean, if you've given birth, is what happens when a woman's water breaks in birth. I can see Serene, is that I can see is and there's something happening that's so much bigger than you, and you just give yourself fully and completely to it. So it's each moment is exactly that, birthing and being birthed. That, of course, Trudy Dixon died, but she was also born in the process of it. So yeah, these stories are amazingly rich to keep coming back to.
Hi, Chris. This is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hi. Well, I also had a new insight about the bottom of the bucket, or the bucket, and I think I think the way it is if we're lucky, we have an instance where the bottom of our constructed self falls out. But what I've observed is that after that happens, life hands you another bucket. And it's just one bucket after the next.
I will. One of the things, having practiced a long time like you, Jim, is I love that Chiono is humble, and I trust that she stays humble, and that it's amazing to me the tenacity of our karmic impulses. Is I love that Dogen says that what a Buddha just knows is that you don't get over delusion. You just know that you're deluded. I take a great joy in the confession of, yeah, I'm a deluded human being, and I'm so glad to be in this human body and for all these buckets, and that we will all just keep getting each other wet and drawing from the well and helping each other. And I think that's the Bodhisattva path. It's like we have to help each other remember that, especially when we're laboring with our buckets. I couldn't agree with you more. And I
Hi,
just said
Chris.
laboring, and I heard myself say, well, that's what happens when the water in a birth process is then there's labor. Yeah, and it's, yep, the world is pushing in and out, and just as long as we You just sit in the middle of it. You just breathe.
I think that might be a new insight into that interchannel story for everyone here. I read that story long before in Paul Ripp's Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, long before I began to practice Zen. And so hearing the retelling of it tonight, particularly the poem, just kind of resonates down through the decades and collapses time a little bit. I'd like also to thank you for your warm-hearted presence tonight here with us and for us. And I feel my own heart, profoundly, and I don't know whether it's joy or pain that I'm feeling. But it's an inspiration to rest in it, whatever it is. And I was particularly also, I was struck by, and am moved to ask you a question which I don't think you can answer. And I'm not sure I can ask it, but it has to do with your thought that that in a certain frame of mind, even painful experiences are joyous. I think you said something like that.
Say that again. Your voice is a little echoey. Say the question, not that I can answer it, but say the question again.
You said something like, when your heart is full, even a painful experience, can be joyful, can be experienced as joy. I wonder if you could talk a little, if there's anything more to say about that.
I think you said it earlier. Is you said something like I don't know whether it's joy or pain. I think it's very close. It's very I think that to me that's the beauty of practice is there's a strength and an uprightness in it and in Zazen, and I think it allows us to become more and more tenderized. And like the story of Trudy Dixon, I mean, Trudy Dixon didn't want to die and she didn't want the pain, and but there was something that happened as she stayed with it. We can't, it's all Buddha's body and it's poignant. And I think if we're lucky, we get more tender, which means we get more compassionate. But it's a very upright, it's full of wisdom and compassion. Yeah, and I don't like pain. You don't like pain. But you know what? Good luck. Sorry. Life's going to bring us what it brings us. And that's why we take refuge. That's why you're here on a Monday night. We help each other.
Thank you for the word tenderize. I like that. I wonder what you were reading from when you were telling Trudy's story.
I figured somebody would ask that, and I apologize because I found that story a long time ago, and I often forget to write down where I found it. I'm pretty sure that where I found it is you probably know David Chadwick's Crooked Cucumber website, and he has all kinds of wonderful stories. Um, and I often just will go searching. You just never know. It's one of the wonders and also the flip side of like, ay, 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 what is all this technology? And actually, someone in my Sangha some years ago, she practiced with Trudy Dixon and loved her and said, Trudy Dixon died so many years ago. Can we do a memorial service for her? So that was when I went searching, and that's when I found the story. I would recommend looking at David Chadwick's Crooked Cucumber. I think you'll find it there.
David is amazing.
David is an amazing bodhisattva resource. Yeah. And I'll also just say, and then I know we need to stop, is I love Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, and I love Not Always So. But one of my most favorite things is I go to that website because Suzuki Roshi's unedited talks are there too. And so all of his, and what's in there a lot is laughter. They say, laughed, laughed, laughed. And that to me is like a finger pointing at the moon of there's a way that he and Trudy and I want to believe the tender-hearted warmth of Chiono and Yozen is, uh, yeah, it's there's joy in the midst of this suffering world. It's part of who knew. I certainly didn't know that in the midst of anger and fear and on, there is joy and happiness. We can help each other.
Thank you very much.
So should we say the end of lecture chant? Is that what we do next?
Uh, there's one more question, Chris.
Good. Okay.
Oh, I might be wrong about that. I thought somebody sitting behind me had a question, but I've
It's
been told
you.
no. Well, thank you for your talk tonight. I would like to just take the opportunity to say that. I share the sentiment of the Sangha that it really has touched my heart and inspired me. And so thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, I will make my comment. This is Malia McCarthy here
Oh,
from the
hi.
Alabama trip. Hi.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Wow.
Hi. Yeah. I'm so happy to hear the Trudy Dixon story. And when I first read Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, I read her, they had just the tiniest biography on her. And they said she went to Wellesley College and then she went to Berkeley and was studying philosophy. And I was so excited because I went to Wellesley College and I studied philosophy. And so I felt connected to her and I never heard another word about her. And I know I've even Googled her and not come up with anything. So I'm really thrilled to hear this about her. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for saying something. And I think the SCBA series is celebrating the voices of women. I mean, as we all know, um, I knew Trudy Dixon's name, but I never heard her story. So it's really beautiful that we can help. We all need, at Everyday Zen, when we started doing the lineage papers of both the traditional lineage and including the women ancestors, Norman Fisher said, now our hearts are complete. You know, we need all of our stories, and we need stories of people of color, and we need stories of people disabilities. I mean, whatever it is we got in this life, whatever body we got, it makes us all whole. So yeah, I'm so happy to bring forward these stories through. I got a woman's body. You got this. I got that. Let's all help each other wake up together.
Wow, so much beauty and richness and connection and love coming through. Thank you, Chris. I don't know, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So for Donna, Dharma Heart Zen Sebastopol.
You know, if you go on the website, dharmaheartzen.com, there's a little thing there that says about Donna and you can push
Mhm.
it. I'm not very good at any of this, but dharmaheartzen.com, you'll find.
Okay, and then push it. Okay,
Thank you very much.
great. Okay, I don't see the people on Zoom right now, but maybe all of us together can offer the after lecture chant. Oh, there we are.
And I want to thank you all again and thank David for struggling with the tech. It's amazing that we pull off these miracles. So thank you, everybody.
And everyone on Zoom, you can unmute and just express your gratitude and goodbyes and hellos.
Good to see everyone. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you.
You take care.